So before we commence our service, as it's not sundown yet, throughout the month of Elul, leading up to Rosh Hashanah, we blow the shofar as a reminder of that we are to not just begin our encounter with God on Rosh Hashanah, but that we need to prepare ourselves for that encounter, for our worship to be meaningful. In American Jewry, one critique can be that people will come to a synagogue to worship on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur without doing some of the preparation that is deeply encouraged in our tradition. And as we've noted, that famous midrash involving Moses, that Moses, when he went up the second time to carve out the tablets and to write the Torah, he spent 40 days and 40 nights. And he went up on the 1st of Elul, and he came down on the 10th of Tishrei, which is Yom Kippur. And so by analogy, the preparation for not just the encounter with God, but for the serious encounter with Torah, is to begin much earlier. And Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are to be Yamim HaNoraim, are supposed to be days of awe, not days of fear, not days of trembling, but days of awe, in which we really search within ourselves our encounter with God and the meaning of life, the meaning of our individual lives, and the meaning of our communal life, and indeed the world's life. And that captures, in some sense, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And to get our hearts and minds ready for that, the sound of the shofar is a reminder that each day, and particularly even though our worship is the Shabbat, we are to prepare our hearts and minds for that encounter. So once again, I'll have our shofar announcer, Howard, ask everybody to rise, and just a simple tekiah will be fine.
Tekiah.
You may be seated. Let us, before we light the Shabbat candles, let us turn to page 126. Let us join in prayer. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created, and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us, and to bring that vision to life. I'll call upon Diane to light the Shabbat candles. You can follow the bracha on page 120.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'havot shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who helps us with the mitzvah, commanded us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlikneh shel Shabbat.
And we continue now with Hine Matov on page 128, followed by Dodi Li, my beloved, page 129.
Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Dodi li vani haroe bashoshamim. Dodi li mizot olam min hamidbar Dodi li. Dodi li vani haroe bashoshanim. Dodi li mekuredet mor ulavona lemol vonolam. Dodi li vani haroe bashoshanim. Dodi li.
We're continuing the theme of belovedness, or our beloved, if we tribute to God, that God is our beloved, and that we are the beloved of God. We continue on page 138 with Lachadodi. Again, we chant the first two verses on page 138, and then we rise for the last verse on page 139. Lachadodi.
Dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechuven elcha, ki mekor habracha, mirosh michidim nisucha, sof maaseh v'makshevat zichra. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Oy shalom ateret alav, gam besimcha ubetzola, toch imoni amsigula, boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
And we continue now with the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144, followed by the Baruch Hu on page 146.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ויאמר דברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי וחייכון וביום נכון ובחיי לכל בית
Our service continues now with the two blessings before the Shema to prepare us for the relationship between our world and our connection to God. On page 149, this is an hour of change. Together? This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of life. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it, we stand quietly on the border of life. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. And we continue now with reading on page 151, Wisdom and Wonder. Let us join in prayer, the prelude to the Shema. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us, and the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Please rise for the Shema, page 152 and 153.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levacha v'kol nefeshecha u'v'kol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom ha'levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam b'shivtecha b'bitecha uv'lechtecha b'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשקתם לאות הידיך, והיו לטוטפות בעיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם בכל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
You may be seated. We continue now with the Mi Chamocha, composed at the crossing of the Red Sea to freedom, page 148.
Join in, you've heard it a few times. Start with Mi Chamocha. Mi Chamocha, Bailim Adonai, Mi Chamocha, Neidar B'Kodesh, Orat
chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, God Yisrael. We continue now on page 161, a prelude to the Hashkivenu. Page 161, top of the page. Let us join in prayer. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
I expect everyone to join in with the Hashkivenu. The word should be in the prayer book. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hushmot tzitenu uvoenu l'chaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. We'll just keep running this one. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom ve'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Beautiful job. Next time we sing it a little louder.
Many of us on that Hashkivenu do not want to sing along because we are so in a meditative spirit of prayer because of the beauty of the melody and your beautiful rendition. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat la'asot et HaShabbat l'dor עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת שבת וינפל. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. Please rise for the tefillah, the Adonai Sakatai Tiftach, and we'll begin on page 164, and that will continue through page 170, and then at the conclusion of the Kadosh Atah, we'll continue silently in our own silent meditations, or in the various readings from page 100 and page 170 through page 180. We begin on page 164. no silent meditations. You may either stand or be seated and continue through to page 180.
Shabbat Shalom to everyone. In our Torah study class, we studied a very interesting section of the Torah, and it commands us that when we come into the land of Israel, that after we reap the harvest in the third year, we are to take a basket, and in that basket lay out the harvest, bring it to the place that God will show us, and put it on the Mizbeach, put it on the altar as a sacrifice. And after that, we are to go and to share our harvest with the stranger, with the orphan, and the widow. And in that spirit, the Torah says, "V'samachta b'chol tov," and you shall rejoice in all of your goodness. I would imagine that they did not have it as good as we have it in this country. Even in the midst of a pandemic, they were all making sacrifices. And part of Rosh Hashanah and part of Yom Kippur is indeed to reflect on the good that we have in our lives. It is to think carefully about how we frame our life and how we see it. And one of the great strengths of Judaism, of this particular passage, is that rejoicing embraces those who are disenfranchised. B'chol she'aracha, in all of your gates. Those who are suffering. Doesn't necessarily mean just the stranger or the orphan or the widow. When you think of that class of people who are enumerated in the Torah, it refers to those people who could be starving, who could be lonely, who could be without. And yet here we are to encourage them to be with us, to share our prayers, to share what we have worked hard for, and v'samachta b'chol tov, and be happy, religiously happy, with all of the good. So we ask ourselves, what is the Torah teaching us about one's happiness? When we think of happiness, we think of elation. We think of maybe getting something material, or going out on rare occasions as I do and shooting a good round of golf. Those are the things that we feel kind of happy about. But on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and the days leading up to it, what are the things in life that cause us to be happy? And I think that happiness is associated with meaning. It's associated with a sense of altruism, of what it means to be concerned about the welfare of others. And so there's a paradox in the Torah. There's a paradox. When we think of happiness, we think of ourselves, and we think of those who we love. But the Torah urges us to think more deeply than that. That when we think of happiness, we think of purpose, of what is it that gives life meaning, that gives our lives meaning. And the Torah suggests that what gives our life meaning is our concern for one another, our concern for those who may not have it as good as we have it. Which, when you think about it, is what the Torah is saying is that each of us have it better than the next person. You think about it for a moment, right? You have your food, you have your produce, and you could be in difficult circumstances. But what the Torah is really teaching us in this portion, Ki tavo el haaretz, when you come to the land, that your happiness is directly connected to the welfare of your neighbor. Our happiness as a community, as a religious community, is connected to the welfare of one another, in our care and concern for one another. And how is that expressed in our liturgy? For example, we have Misha Berachos. I don't know whether God hears those prayers and gives healing. I don't know. I can't say for certain. But what I can say for certain is that when we chant the Misha Berach, for example, our hearts are fully engaged. We want these people to get well. Some of them I don't even know. Some of them are not even members of our community. But what our liturgy is expressing is this very thing. The Shabbat is an oneg, right? When you think of the oneg, it's a celebration. It's a celebration of happiness. It's a celebration of the end of the week. And no matter what our financial situation is, we're to have a good meal. We're to be with people that we love and we care about. It was an ordained day of rest. And yet that ordained day of rest isn't meaningful unless we are connected to each other, unless we care about the welfare of one another. This community, this wonderful Sha'arei Shamayim, the gates of heaven, we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We're far from perfect. And by the way, I wouldn't want us to be perfect. If we were perfect, we probably wouldn't be Jews, you know? Because we recognize our imperfections. We recognize the imperfection of the world. We recognize and acknowledge our own imperfection and our own frailties. As I venture to say, almost all religious people and all religious faiths do. But we are finite here on this earth. And so we have to make the best of what we have and be the best we can to one another as we approach these high holy days. Since I've been here, I have seen the goodness of all of you. I have seen how much you care about this temple, about this community. And it's not in just coming here and doing services or coming in the Torah. It's, for example, the men's club coming to clean the outside walls, to make the synagogue, to make the temple, to make the temple as beautiful as it possibly can be at the start of Rosh Hashanah. That is as much of a prayer that I saw a few weeks ago. That is as much of a prayer as the most holiest prayers that we have, including the Kol Nidre. Why? Even more so, because the Kol Nidre, we're obligated to come. We're obligated to come here. It's a mitzvah, right? But there's no necessary mitzvah of doing that kind of work. Or I could point to the hard work of people who are filling in unbelievably under this very difficult time where we're in transition and devoting hours and hours to trying to solve some of the most difficult problems. And why? Why do we do that? We do that because it enables us to be the samach b'chatatov, to rejoice in our goodness. So when we come together at the start of Rosh Hashanah, and when we come together on Yom Kippur, it's not all of a sudden that of the clear blue sky. It's a reflection of our care and our love for the temple. And my hope and my prayer is that it's our love for one another. That regardless of disputes that we may have, regardless of differences that we may have in our history, at the heart of the matter, that we care for one another, and that together we are united to be the very best that we can before God and before one another. I'd like to end this sermon with a short little story. And I find as I get older, a little more inspirational each time I read and I reflect on it. It's a story that there was an old man and a young boy. And the old man was planting a fig tree with the young boy. And there's two parts. The young boy says to the old man, "You're not going to be alive to see the produce of your work." And the old man says, "It's true, but there will be next to the generations to come that will." They continue to plant, and all of a sudden, the young boy hears something from the distance, a big band and a big caravan. And he runs to see music is playing and people are dancing and so forth and so on. And he runs up to see, and the old man continues to play. He comes back to the old man and says, "The Messiah is coming. This procession has the Messiah." And the old man says, "The Messiah can wait. We need to finish planting the tree." And that's the groundedness I hope and I pray and I believe in my heart of hearts that all of us are feeling and sensing and giving us purpose and meaning as we look forward to these Yamim HaNora'im, these days of awe. Shana Tova U'Taka, may we have a good and sweet year. Shabbat Shalom. Our service continues now with a meditation, the intermezzo, number 100, intermezzo, opus 118, number 1, by Johannes Brahms. Our service continues now with the Misha Berach on page 371.
May the source of strength, who bless the
pray for the spiritual, physical, and emotional healing for Bobby Davis, Matthew McCormick, Paul Bradley, Robin Mayer, Mark Siegel, Rhoda Bennett, Brian Corcoran, Charmaine Mosier, Richard Rose, and David Rose. Now turn to the people on Zoom and unmute yourself and share with us the names of those in need of healing.
Alice Glass, Jan Rice Weitzman.
Thank you, Steve.
Jennifer Sundberg, Jane Longino, and Kathy Hockman.
Thank you, Anne.
Mamie Grossman, Judy Stein, Mark Schoenfeld.
Now turn to all of you in the congregation. As my eyes meet yours, we'll go row by row. Yes, sir.
All those people, the families, those people who were killed in Afghanistan.
Dr. John Johnson.
Julie Adams and Tiffany Shabbat.
Mariette Hatsis.
Robert McCuson. Please rise for the Olenu on page 586.
You may be seated. Whenever the ark closes, or the ark is closed, you can sit down. Thanks. This week we observe the yahrzeits of Janice Fry Goldman, Abraham Goldberg, Edwin A. Zellniker Sr., Gail Stone Bergman, William Paul Warren, Becky Friedlander, Julian Marks, Eleanor Ruth Frankel, Reuben Cantle, and Arish Schenderbeek. Is there anyone observing a yahrzeit or saying Kaddish for someone who they wish to remember? I'll begin first with the individuals on Zoom. In solemn testimony to that unbroken faith which links generations one to another, let those who mourn and all whose tradition it is to join in its recitation, the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'alma divrach kirutei v'amnich malchutei, v'chayichon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitvarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha v'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God, who establishes peace unto the heavens, grant peace and comfort in the hearts of all who mourn, and let us say, Amen. You may be seated. So tomorrow evening, we will be observing Selichot, and we do have prayer books, thanks to Howard and Nate's efforts this morning. I tried finding where they were located, and they were in a place that I looked at, and I didn't see them. I always think that when that happens, that God likes to play tricks on me. God takes them away and then puts them back. So thank you for finding those. We really appreciate it. We want to thank Priscilla and my wife Maggie for putting together Abdallah sets. As we know, because of COVID, we really can't share the spice box. We should really be sharing the wine and so forth. So they put together little bags, and we're very, very grateful for that. That service will be tomorrow night at 7. And then Sunday morning, the men's club are gathering once again to finish cleaning the outer sidewalks of the pathway leading up to the temple, and we're very grateful for the men's club for that actions. Thank you. Torah study continues on Wednesday at 5:30, and of course services next week at the same time, 6:15. Am I missing any announcements at this point? You're good? Okay. We're going to conclude our service in much the same way that we did last week, because I've been trying to learn this piece, and with the help of Chris and with Molly, but for me, I have to do things a number of times. It's the Kurt Weil, Kiddush, and maybe we'll conclude after that with the guitar version of the Don Alone. So first I need somebody to make notes here. Cumberland was the Red Sea, it's named Lake.
I will do the catechism. Okay, thank you. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam hotzi lechem min haaretz. Thank you. Yes, you have to have this. You have to have some. Maybe if you'd like to hold it for us, that'd be great, because I think that the music could thank you. And then you can read some of our. You can join us up here if you'd like.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good here.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadsha v'yahava uvratzon minkatanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit Ki hu yom tehillah l'mekayim kodesh zecher yitziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'charta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha v'yahava uvratzon minkatanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat Amen. He needs it after.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.